facing head-on the emotions beneath the surface as we bridge from an old world of confusion and lack to a beautiful new world of freedom, abundance, and love with straightforward truth and inspired hope is what you'll find on The Charla Anderson Show. Collector and connector of fascinating people. And everyone is fascinating. Here's your host, Charla Anderson.
Good, beautiful day, beautiful, beautiful souls. This is Charla Anderson, host of the Charla Anderson Show, collector and connector of fascinating people. And everyone is fascinating, especially you. We've got the most incredible guest from South Africa, Hanna Kok, that we're going to get to introduce in just a moment. She's got, how do you overcome super tragedy, horrendous murder of her husband and in a small village. It's a crazy story we're going to learn. But first, we're going to do our little breathing exercise. I want us to feel the calmness, and let's breathe in. We're going to breathe in calm for 7 seconds. We're going to hold for 4 seconds, and we're going to breathe out gratitude for 11 seconds. So if you'll just join me real quick, and let's get this centering and grounding breathing going. Here we go. Breathe in some calm. Hold. Release. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So, man, we've got a show today because I'm so excited to. I listened to your story, Hanna, on Terry Lee's Bri Talks, Bri Talks, BRI Talks with Terry Lee, and I'm telling you, it was so compelling, and you've done so much with your life, and instead of turning bitter, you turned better, and that's part of your whole story. So I'm just grateful to hear and share more about how you've overcome all of those horrific things, and now you're an intuitive healer, and you help people all over the world heal from mental traumas and physical traumas. So tell us who you are in this world, Hanna.
So my name is Hanna, and I am actually from the Netherlands originally, in case you were wondering what my accent was. And then when I was 25, I went to Lesotho for 6 months. Now, Lesotho is a little independent country that is inside of South Africa. It's in the mountains. And I thought I was going there for 6 months. And I met my husband, and I ended up staying for 12 years. Yeah, so I was a trained teacher, and I wanted to leave the Netherlands because I wanted to find out about life. I'd gone from school to school to school, just changed side of the desk, and I thought, no, I want to find out more. And so when I met my husband, and he was also studying with a guy called Paul Solomon, who had an organization called, or he taught ILC, Inner Light Consciousness. And it's all about, how God is everywhere. And when we study even different religions, we can understand a better picture of who God is, because we are basically like people standing in a dark room with an elephant, and we all hold a little piece of that elephant. And we think we know what God looks like, but only when we start listening to the other people, what their experience is, can we get a better picture of who God is. And through that teaching, I was very fortunate to have that teaching on forgiveness and how God stands by us. And when we have trouble, he sends a comforter. And so I had all this training for quite a number of years. For 11 years, we've been studying with this man. And so by the time tragedy struck, I was prepared. It's so weird. There were even things that happened beforehand. I remember once being on a course, and this woman was telling the story of how she had lost her husband and never cried, and then she had a tragedy that she was pinned under a gate, and then she realized, oh, but I never grieved my husband. Now, this was before anything happened in my situation. But something said to me, important story for you. You know, it was like so many things. It was like, listen here, listen there. So that when it happened, I was prepared. It sounds really weird, but so I knew the importance of forgiveness. Now, that is a big thing. Because so often when something happens, a tragedy happens, and in my case, you know, I lost my husband in an armed robbery, which probably was even an organized attack by jealous shop owners in the area. And I realized, you know, even though they knew who these people were and they were never arrested, I thought, I cannot afford to be upset and hold a grudge because I'm going to lose my life in the process. And I had a 16-month-old son at the time. Yeah. And so you can't have that you're consumed by bitterness because that's what normally happens. That's the easiest things that can happen, and getting stuck in the why and things like that. So
Wow. So you're a truly remarkable. I mean, you had built a successful business. You were working together, and I don't think I remembered that you had a son, 16-month-old. My goodness, that's enough. And then, a major break-in at night and murder of your husband is just as one of those most horrific things you can imagine sometimes. And so when you say you're prepared, you're never really prepared, but you weren't prepared for the event, but you were prepared for the aftermath. You were prepared for the healing. You were prepared to handle it in a way that did not destroy your life as well. That's a great thing. And I also I always like to point out on when we're talking about God, we're not talking about religion, right? We're not talking about God in a box, religion. We're talking about relationship. So I think a lot of people get confused because religions are so often very narrow, and so I think you've learned more than most if you've studied a lot of different.
And I needed that because I actually, before I went to Lesotho, I was allergic to religion. Literally. Don't tell me anything about God and Bible and everything, even though, because I come from quite a religious family and my mother, was we call it happy clappies, a reborn Christian. And I struggled with it. And so I turned away completely. And only through this studying with this man that I could realize, oh, but there is a God out there. And he helped me so much that I could go back to church, that I realized, okay, but it's a much bigger picture there. And we don't have to judge other people for what they believe. I always say, I feel it's in my work, I get people to have a communication with the divine, but how that conversation goes is not my responsibility. If it goes through a religion or not, and which religion, it's not my task. God is clever enough to sort that out.
Absolutely. I think, this, I was raised very fundamentally as well. So it was I was like, a lot of fear. And I'm telling you, God is love. He can't be not love. If if he loves you no matter what. He doesn't see anything but his creation and love.
Absolutely.
Totally.
And the one thing that I also wanted to share with you that I didn't share that time when I was telling my story was how God was there we had about 10 days between his death and the funeral. Now here we're living in a rural Lesotho village. To give you an idea of how rural it is, we had to sort out our own electricity. Our water came from the river with a 1.5 kilometer pipe that we had laid ourselves. our car park was filled with horses and donkeys, and most people had come over the mountains to come down the mountain to come to our store. We would sell big bags of maize meal, clothing, anything from napkins to coffins and what you needed in between. That's what we would sell. And so there's no funeral parlor there. There's nobody to organize the funeral. And my father-in-law had died 6 weeks before, also suddenly. So my mother-in-law really took a lot of strain. They were living in South Africa at the time. And but my father-in-law was also raised in this village where we were now running the family trading station. So when we organized the funeral for my husband, we had to basically organize a service for both of them because the people never had a chance to say goodbye to either of them. Now, organizing a funeral in Lesotho means you have to slaughter a cow. You have to cook for the whole village. Everybody's coming to eat. Then there are traditions of, as the mourning wife, you should be in bed the whole time. Well, what happened was the one day I was tired and I thought, okay, well, let me go and rest. And as I was lying in bed, there the elders from the village came to visit me. I mean, the timing was so perfect. It was just, and each time when we had to do something, there was just a blessing. The help was there. I mean, to start with, I'd learned that if you lose a loved one, God will send comforters. Well, within 48 hours, my two sisters and my parents came from the Netherlands, the other side of the world. They flew in to this village to support me, and they supported me with the whole process. And it was just one miracle after the other as we were organizing this funeral that also made it so easy for me to say, well, there's so much perfection here. How can I be upset? It was also that we wanted to make a living instead of making a life, and we couldn't see how we could make a life in that little village. And now I was free to move away. I was already trained as an educational kinesiologist. Miraculously, that happened in the years before. And so now I could go and do the work we wanted to do together. Decided I'm going to do this in honor of what we stood for and what he stood for, just to make sure that his death was not in vain.
Awesome. I would like for you to would you please repeat the study that you did, and is it still available? What is and what was it called again?
It is called ILC, Inner Light Consciousness. And there is actually still a group active in Virginia Beach. They have a little church there. So it's an American organization. And I think if you Google ILC, Inner Light Consciousness, you should be able to find them. They have tapes, and so we followed a lot. We had a lot of tapes because we're so far away. So we would wait, for the snail mail to arrive and bring tapes. I think you can download a lot of stuff now. I'm not sure, but the teachings is really phenomenal. I really, really loved it a lot.
Well, it's beautiful. I mean, and who would have known, right? You don't know. So, the work we do, whatever we do, when the time comes. So, for me, I was robbed at gunpoint. I had a gun right here, and I stepped towards a gun and said, "You need love," and they ran, and I had no fear because who I say I am is bold faith, no fear. What you say after I am is who you are. So who I'd said for many years, I'm bold faith, no fear. I was shaken. There's, you don't have, but I had no fear in that moment of stepping towards the gun and saying, you need love. And so when you prepare it's all about mindset here. We're talking choosing a mindset of forgiveness, a mindset of boldness, a mindset of faith, a mindset of creativity, whatever your mind, that we get to choose. It's all choice. So
I'm so glad you're saying this. So my husband was very worried for quite a while, that we would be sitting ducks where we were in this remote village. We didn't have a lot of security. And he was constantly worried about it. And I said, no, I know we will be okay. I had in my mind thought what I would do, how I would handle the situation. And then when it happened, when, I hear the loud noises outside in the middle of the night, first thinking that it's fireworks and then realizing, no, we later heard there was a hand grenade that went off at the police station close by. And then they were outside our house. I got up to go and open up because they said, police open up. But I was not afraid. And then my baby started to whimper. And my husband always said, well, as long as they don't find the two of you, I'll be okay. But I didn't even think of those words. But I did think, well, let me make sure that the baby's quiet. And so I had to go back to bed and nurse my baby because I was still nursing him at the time. And then my husband had been sleeping. We were sleeping in these round huts, and he'd been sleeping in the other hut because of the baby keeping him awake. And then he opened up, and I could hear how he spoke to them, that there was something wrong. And then I started praying. There was another thing I'd learned, pray, don't worry about people, put them in the light. And I prayed and prayed. And then I did get scared because it took so long and I didn't have enough faith to keep going. And later we discovered that he had overpowered these people because I found him in the doorway of the office with the back to the door. Now, you never put your hostage in the doorway. That's the person in charge that is in the doorway, right? And then he got overpowered from behind. And I believe it could very well be that the moment that I switched from praying and putting it in the light to getting scared, that could have been the turning point. I never know. But with the forgiveness, I had to forgive the other people, but I really had to forgive myself for getting scared. That was
which is it's a human nature, right? So that's you better, but and you did the positive thing. So be prepared, not scared is another one of my mantras, especially in the beginning of 2020. I was like, be prepared, not scared. There's so much more going on than meets the eye. And you walk in this fear and all of a sudden we get small and instead of big, and the bold faith makes a huge impact.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the fear that kills us.
So you'd mentioned he was afraid and worried about exactly what happened. There is the possibility that he created that in his own. We create our reality and we hear it, but we don't understand it. So truly, it's a possibility that because you're like, no, we're good, and he's like, we're a little nervous and worried, that you get what you focus on. You get what you focus on.
And he was, of course, also very down because his dad had died just 6 weeks before. And for a lot of sons, when their father dies, they lose direction because a lot of their life is around proving to their father that they're worthy. So that also had fallen away. We were feeling stuck. We didn't know how to start making a life for ourselves instead of running the store. We didn't want to run that store. But it was a family business, so you can't just step out of it, so I totally agree with you that we attract that. And what also happened miraculously, a friend of ours had written a book on death and dying, and she posted it to us. And 3 days after his death, this book arrived in the post. Really. And so I was reading the book, and in the book she says that on a soul level, 3 days before we die, we make the decision to go. And it shows up in people's auras, even in accident, it shows up in your aura. So there was no random what's going on here? He had made the decision and he had written in his diary, I'm so stuck, it's time to move on. And he used to say, you know what, I wish all I want to do is sit and meditate and watch my son grow up. So putting all that information together, how can I be angry? You know, it just helped me not to be bitter because I could see the magic plan in every step of the way. We had had an argument the night before, but I had made peace with him. We had made up for the argument. So even that, it was just, I don't know, it was just so much perfection, even though it was horrible. And he was an amazing man. And to this day, I miss him. And I haven't remarried since then, but I still miss him, you know.
Wow. And you're, people can't, I'm sure there's a lot of people that could not fathom that you could forgive all of that you could live in peace. So let's talk a bit now about what you do, how you do that, how you heal. You've got intuitive healing. And for women suffering through menopause or periods or all those kinds of things, you have a program called Apphirmations. And that's, we want to spell it because, and we'll spell your name as well and how they can find you because, this will be out on podcast. More people will hear podcast than see it. So,
Yeah. So as I said, the two reasons why I managed to choose to get better instead of bitter was I knew about the power of forgiveness it's all about mindset. Shifting the mindset from that fear-based mindset, as you spoke about, to a love-based mindset. The teaching that I learned through Paul Solomon and the Inner Light Consciousness, Paul Solomon is not around anymore, but the Inner Light Consciousness group is still going, was from victim to master. I love that teaching of how to take charge of your life by letting go of your fears. And so I've created this audio program called Apphirmation. So it's a wordplay. It's a combination of application, like an app, and affirmations. And hopefully by the end of the year, I will be on the app stores as well. For now, it is a web-based app, and you can go to apphirmations.co. So you spell it with double PH instead of double F. Affirmations with double P.
APPHIRMATIONS.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Right. And then .co, not .com, .co.
Yeah. And that's a tricky thing because we're so used to the call. So
yeah, I used to be a .com and now that got gobbled up in cyberspace and it's not a nice website now. So don't go to the affirmations.co. That is where you want to be.
So I mean, really, you've also written a book, but you're the happy ever after coach. I love that. And how can you, it's like, how can you be happy ever after with such tragedy? And you've chosen to be the victor instead of the victim. You're also, your other website is The Life You Want, live the life you want. And you've got so many modalities. In fact, you said mental hygiene, right? Let's wash that old stuff out of our brain, out of our mindset.
Absolutely. Because you know what happens is we tend to live reactive lives. Something happens and then we let our thoughts are now directed and determined by what happened. And that's when we get bitter. If, on the other hand, we realize, but hang on, whatever is going on outside of me is a reflection of what's going on inside of me. So if people are nasty to me, they're disrespectful, then I need to start being really more respectful of myself. And by teaching that to people with courses and also with the affirmations, I've seen abuse, any abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse, mental abuse, they stop overnight. They stop. And
Because you quit attracting it. You're not focused on that, and in one way.
and you can still be with the same partner.
Wow.
I worked with a lady that was staying with me because she was, beaten up by her husband. And we did all the inner work to work on her self-esteem. And she went back and I spoke to the husband. He says, but I just don't feel the desire to hit her anymore because she was different. But also, I know not everybody agrees with me, especially not when it comes to, the anti-abuse movement. But I say it's a two-way thing. There is an addiction going on the victim side. There's, first of all, a low self-esteem and a belief that somehow I'm only worthy of that, of abuse. And negative attention is still better than no attention. And so I've seen it, even though I love my first husband very much, there was occasionally physical abuse. And I caught myself thinking, well, I don't deserve any better than that. So it was my mindset. And then you go and irritate the other person until they explode, because then at least you get that attention. Now, I'm not saying it's your own fault that you're in that relationship, because, maybe that's the only example that you've had. In my case, with my first marriage, both my husband and myself were coming out of families where there was a lot of fighting between the husband and wife. So we didn't really have good examples of how to communicate better with each other. And by now I've learned, and I'm sure I would have learned it as I carried on. But so I've saying is that a person in an abusive relationship needs to deal with their self-esteem and also letting go of the addiction to negative attention. Now, on the other hand, we have the perpetrator. Now, we need to remember that people only hurt other people if they are hurting, right? That means that they have been a victim themselves in their past, and they never healed that. So I've created the Confident You affirmations, and these are then audios that ideally you listen to while you're sleeping. And if you're in an abusive relationship and you're still sharing a bedroom, this is perfect. You play them super softly. And then both of you get the healing, because they're affirmations around, I know how to express myself without anger. I know how to communicate. And also letting go of the addiction, the addictive behavior of the stress and anxiety and
So
all of that.
it's so amazing what you're just saying, because I have many years ago now wrote this tiny little book called Candy Bar Hugs. It doesn't take much to make a difference. And one of my quotes in there is like, unconditional love, unconditional forgiveness, but not unconditional boundaries. So it doesn't mean you go back into a bad relationship necessarily. We're not going to encourage more abuse. But we do have that. And I have been saying for quite some time as well that bullies are victims too. The people that are perpetrators have not probably had horrific experiences in their lives, and certainly have low self-esteem. They don't love themselves enough to know how to treat and love others. So I think, exactly, we're on the same wavelength on all that, right?
Exactly. And actually, what I like to say is that people that are insecure now try by bullying others to prove to themselves that they are okay, that they are worthy, that they mean something, because now they have power over somebody. So it's exactly what you're saying as well. Now, on the forgiveness side, when it comes to forgiving, when you're have an abusive relationship, it's not only about forgiving the perpetrator, but we also need to forgive ourselves for attracting the perpetrator, for, being in this relationship, for somehow playing a role in it. Because I always say, when two people fight, two people are the guilty party. Because if you were not there would be nobody to fight with, right? So we need to forgive ourselves for being there. And
I don't think that that's really addressed out in the world very much in this. And, it's like they're bad because they're beating me up, but I'm, and it can so be taken misconstrued. We're not condoning it at all, not even a little.
no.
Yeah, but there are people that choose conflict, right? There's people that choose to adversarial instead of hearing the message and hearing the meaning behind it and hearing the heart, because we are very heart-centered people. So I think it's probably a tough subject for people to hear.
Yeah. You see, another way of explaining it is that if a person, like I grew up in a household where my parents were fighting a lot because my mother was strong-headed and my dad was in his way strong-headed. And so they had a lot of fighting. My husband, he grew up in a family where his dad was an alcoholic and his mother would often humiliate his dad in public. So he came out of a situation was like, there's no ways I'm going to let any woman walk over me, right? Now, I am a strong-headed person, super stubborn. And so he interpreted my behavior as his mother's behavior. And there was no ways he was going to let that happen to him. But the funny thing is that, well, let me talk about my side of the things. I was used to conflict. I felt at home in it. So then I end up attracting a situation where I was at home with it. And I remember one day thinking, I'm so happy. Can't be like that. And so because I didn't believe that I was worthy of such a happy relationship and such a fulfilling relationship, I somehow started sabotaging it. That's another thing. Because you're familiar with something, with fighting, and so you gravitate towards that again. And I had to really learn to look for examples of people that are happily married. I had no examples of that. And now that I have that, my second marriage, yeah, we don't fight and we have learned to deal with our conflict. Didn't go easy from day one, but we learned and we grew into that.
So I find it fascinating that several of the things you've said in the last day or two, I've had this exact conversation. I was thinking my first husband was very, very comfortable with conflict and our crisis. And, he's amazing at, solving problems and coming in as the knight in shining armor. So when things were going well, he wasn't comfortable. Now, I'm not talking about happy. He didn't realize it, right? So he didn't talk about, he wasn't happy in it, but he was comfortable. It was his comfort zone. And to be in that. And so he would find something to create some crisis to be able to come in and save the world, and so
but that actually that's an addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And the same with stress and anxiety. When we have, dealing with that stress of a crisis, your body creates these neuropeptides of what would he be feeling in that moment? Maybe the anxiety of, oh, there's a crisis, and I have to solve this, and the tension there. And those neuropeptides that the body creates in that moment are as addictive as opiates. And so a person will start looking for a crisis, looking for something to worry about, something to fight about, to get that physical fix. And so with my Apphirmations program, the one that I put everybody on, if they're not sure what they want to start with, is to overcome the addictions. Overcoming the addictions to worry, to anxiety. It also helps with getting rid of, your drinking. People drink less or give up completely or stop smoking. But the overcoming addiction to stress and anxiety is very important. Very important.
That is, I think there was a post about a lady, someone posted and had a glass of wine on the picture that she's like, for the first time in a very long time, I have no desire to drink the wine. And
That's
I thought that was interesting.
That is one of my clients, and that's what she said. Because she'd been using the Overcome Addictions affirmations, she said she used to drink maybe 2 bottles at night. She wouldn't call herself even an alcoholic, but definitely a very enthusiastic social drinker. Now, if she drinks 2 glasses, it's a lot. But most of the time, she doesn't drink at all.
And she didn't change anything other than start listening to the affirmations that you have created. I find that
addictions ones specifically
that, and you've got them for all different problems as subjects, problems or issues, right? So, yeah, I'm. And how? So, is this a membership? Is it? How do people get to these affirmations?
So they can go, if they're watching, then there's the QR code behind me. You should be able to scan that. And that will take you up to a sign up page. It's super affordable. It's $9.97 a month. So if you're drinking, well, if you're already drinking 1 glass of wine less a night, that's already paid for. So it's $9.97 per month, and then on a month-to-month basis. So you cancel any time. You can try them out for free for 7 days. You get after day 6 an email saying your trial is ending, so you can then cancel it. And when you sign up, even if you cancel, you do get the free forgiveness course as well. So that is for you to keep forever. Then that's a video call. The short videos, 5 minutes each, about a week. 7 videos or 6, 5 to 10 minutes each.
So forgiveness, to learn how to forgive, if that's a problem, there's a lot of people that, they're very attached to that unforgiveness, or that. My niece was kidnapped when she was 7 and by her dad, and ended up being, she has created an academy, the Forgiveness Academy, and written a book, and and really has done a heck of a lot of work on that subject. And I believe that happiness, we all have a God-shaped hole in our heart right here. So you got to have gratitude. It's key, and it requires forgiveness of not just other people, of yourself, and of God a lot of times too, right?
Absolutely. And so in that forgiveness course, I teach some brain gym exercises. You have your breathing exercises. There's some brain gym exercises people can do. Takes less than 5 minutes a day to just get the brain all integrated, which also helps for dealing with stress. Then you don't go into survival mode so quickly. And then I explain why it's important to forgive, because, holding grudges is like trying to kill somebody by drinking the poison ourselves. And so we're forgiving for ourselves. That other person might not even know that you would hold a grudge. Like those people that killed my husband, I don't know where they are. I forgave them because I wanted to set myself free.
And karma has a way of showing
Exactly.
up.
That was
Let God take care of that. Let someone else deal with the revenge and vengefulness and vindictiveness, and all of those things are so draining. They're just so draining.
Just to give you an idea of why that affects our health. So say we have 10 units of energy a day. Every day we get 10 units of energy. And 4 of those units we will use for our daily activities, for fun and for work and for family and friends. And our body needs about 6 units for repair, restoration, recovery, the immune system, the digestive system. We need about 60% of our energy goes for that. Now, when we become vengeful, or we're holding grudges, or we worry about something a lot, now we might use 3 of our units of energy for that. Now, we still need 4 units for our daily activities, but now the fun is out the window because we now can't think straight. So we need to just focus on our work. Hopefully we do it right. The social life is out the window. So our personal life is already more stressful, which will add to the other stress. But we now only have 3 units to repair and restore and our bodies and the immune system. And so now the repair falls behind. Old age problems is our history catching up with ourselves. We get that amount that we consume with worry and anxiety and carrying our baggage with us gets bigger and bigger. And so our bodies deteriorate. And when you look at people that have had miraculous healing, there's been a huge forgiveness process that took place. So they free up that energy, and now the body can start repairing itself and rejuvenating itself. And I also have specialized affirmations called the energy and body alignment affirmations that open the energy pathways in the body so that you let go of those beliefs that are draining your energy and opening that all up. And you have so much more energy for everything.
So if you, for this basically $10 a month, you get unlimited access to all of them, them. Okay. So you've got quite a library of different healings, I would say, healing affirmations. And I listen to, the 888 hertz a lot of times are some of the really good meditation type music, sometimes all night long and sometimes all day long, just in the background, just knowing that it's a cleansing energies. So
on your computer, what you can actually do is have 2 tabs open, and hopefully with my app, I will be able to do that as well. But I'm not sure yet. We're still negotiating and looking if it's possible. But I know with the computer, you can have 2 tabs open. And the one you play your healing music, and the other one you play the affirmations, and you can turn them way down so they become, and ideally you want to listen to them subliminally anyway. And then you get best of both. You have your healing music and the affirmations underneath them as a soft whisper.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So just tossing it out there, people that have real physical injuries, so to speak. My sister had an aneurysm and a stroke and brain bleeds and, things like that. Do these affirmations also address that type of healing?
Well, I know it will aid in the healing process. I actually have somebody now who's just had a stroke or has had a severe stroke is now using them. I haven't followed up with her because she only started using them just a few weeks ago. But definitely they will help because, first of all, letting go of the addiction to negative energy, your worry and anxiety is super important. That frees the body up for having more energy for healing. Then, let's now look specifically at a stroke. With a stroke, we have meridians that run in the body. Now, the meridians are the energy pathways that run through the body. That's where the acupuncturists stick the needles in. 6 of the 12 meridians run over your head. And one particular one goes like all the way, really backwards and forwards over the brain. When you increase the flow of life force through those meridians, it means that the brain has more energy as well for healing. Then there are other subjects. There are for focus and learning, for optimal focus and learning. That addresses the brain integration and activating the memory. So there are quite a range of affirmations that can be beneficial for physical healing as well. And for the confident you affirmations, I've got specific things in there also that can help with PTSD. as well.
It's
there's quite
fascinating. It's fascinating. It's fascinating. So, the affirmations, are they read by you? Are they your voice? Are they written by you? Because, I do believe mantras make a difference. I mean, my main mantra is thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm just walking around in gratitude. And my other one is everything is always working out for me.
Yes, that's
And,
wonderful.
and I love that. And, are you familiar with Michael Singer, the
Yes,
Untethered Soul?
yes.
So the
I have,
idea that from the beginning of time, let there be light till, and if we believe, infinity, right? So, and there's billions of people, 8 billion right now, and we've had billions before us, and there'll be billions after us, and untold numbers. And we get upset over silly little things in this tiny little speck that we are in eternity, this teeny, and somebody cuts us off, and we spend the rest of the day or the rest of the week talking about it, and focusing on what's wrong instead of what's right. And I think I love his philosophy around that. And it's like, just be in the moment and quit being upset.
I know, and I agree with that. However, it's not always easy
Oh, I
because
didn't say it's easy.
no.
Yeah.
But with my affirmations, I address these things. So instead of only putting positive statements in, I also address a lot of the negative beliefs that we have and the emotions that we're holding on to, and calling on the divine to help us release them. The other thing is that, for example, a lot of people will walk around with, I'm unworthy. Okay. Now, when we have that belief, we hold on to that belief because it's working for us. If I believe I'm unworthy, now I will go and prove to myself and others that I'm worthy by being kind and helpful and, people pleasing, whatever it is I do, humble, so we develop virtues because of a limiting belief. Now, if we yank that limiting belief out, our subconscious mind goes like, but hang on, I can't let that belief go because I'll lose my virtues with it. So in my affirmations, I'll have affirmations saying, I infuse the knowing that I'll continue to be kind and helpful and humble, even without the belief that I'm worthless. So I put that in, and then we put in the belief I'm worthy and I know what it feels like to be worthy. And then we remove the belief I'm worthless or I'm unworthy, things like that. So my affirmations, one cycle, so there's quite a number of recordings in a night that you can be listening to. And a cycle can be anything from the shortest one is 53 minutes and the longest one could be up to 2 hours. Doing a lot of that work, releasing a lot of stuff and re-educating the subconscious that I can let go of the limiting beliefs because I know how to keep the virtues.
And keep repeating that. Can you put them on repeat, right? Where they
Yes,
just continue to replay over and over.
And then the next night you'll have a big section that is repeating and a little section that is new every night.
Oh, so you've got an actual plan. It's a plan of action.
Yeah. So there's like a 30-day program. If you want to get rid of allergies or if you want to overcome addiction, it's like a 30-day program.
So allergies is another big one that we haven't even mentioned, but I saw that too, that I believe somehow or another we bring so much of this stuff on ourselves, and this unworthiness is a core belief, and environmentally we're a lot of stuff is sent our way, right? So we have, I call it a shield of protection. Thank you for the shield of protection. Thank you for keeping the shield of protection around my home, my house, my body, and I let the bad stuff just kind of reflect out, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly. But also a lot of things that we think and even allergies can be inherited. So with the affirmations, I also address the hereditary aspect of it. So we can clean our ancestral line as well.
Well, let me ask you this. Does it work even if you don't believe it works?
Yeah, I have had people that didn't believe in it, and they worked with it, and they said, okay, well, let me just try it. And the funniest story, one of the very funny story, was of a guy came to visit us, and he was coughing so badly. And I said to him, well, do you mind if I play something? And he didn't really believe in it. He wasn't interested in it too much. But I also have abundant health affirmations. So I played those. And he was coughing so badly that you thought his lungs would end up on the table. You know, it was really. Within 20 minutes, he stopped coughing. So I went to him and I said, after that, a while, I said, did you notice you stopped coughing? He said, yeah, now that you mention it. I said, well, would you like to know why? No, not really. I said, okay, well, that's fine. And I took my phone because I needed it, and I went back into my office. 10 minutes later, he started coughing again. Not as bad as it was before. Now, that was somebody who wasn't believing in it. I think if you really don't want it, you can block it out. I do believe that. There has to be some sort of openness, because it's all about activating the placebo effect. You know, the placebo is about the placebo is about you believing that your body can heal.
The mind doesn't know if it's what you're saying is fake or real. The placebo effect is so powerful. And I love Dr. Joe Dispenza's work on that and read his book. You know, it's amazing work on what our mind is so incredibly powerful. We are getting, I mean, we're ending this up. Sometimes it goes so fast. So I totally engaged in this conversation. So will you spell Apphirmations again, and then your website and all of those things? Just
Yeah. So the website is, you go to the 3 W's, and then it's APP. So APPHIR, M for Maria, ATIO, N for Nelly, S. So it's Apphirmations, but instead of spelling it with double F, you spell it with double PH, and then it's .co. And that's the website. You can sign up there for the affirmations for free for 7 days. You can get the free forgiveness course, either directly if you only want the forgiveness course, or try out the affirmations, and you will get also the free forgiveness course, and that's for you to keep.
I'm really inspired here. So, and your name is Hanna, Hanna. There's an H on a lot of Hannahs. So HANNA KOK, spoken
Yes.
cook.
Cook. Well, it means cook. It is Afrikaans or a Dutch name, and it means cook. Yeah.
Well, I'm incredibly grateful for your time, and I know it's late at night over there, and I think you're onto something here, and I'm really inspired to see how it works, and I totally believe in speaking what you want and letting these things. The subliminal is so powerful. Our minds are so powerful. So, what's any final words? So it's about that time.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. And what my mission or what my vision is for the affirmations is that it can assist people to shift from fear to love. And when we shift our lives from fear to love, that's where we find our happy ever after.
Who I am is bold faith, no fear, don't you? I mean, unconditional love is my message. I think we're on the same path, don't you? That's awesome. Well, I'm so grateful for your time today again, and we will certainly be in touch. We are connected because of Terry Lee Harrison and her Bree Talks. Let's Talk Bree.com, I believe it is. Anyway, find BRI. It's an amazing speakers group, and so yeah, and I know you want to speak more, and so do I. So blessings to you. I'm going to see if I can find that stop record button. And I just am so thrilled. And always remember, I always end with, and choose joy.
Parting is such sweet sorrow. The Charla Anderson Show. Encouraging you to stand strong and courageous with bold faith, no fear, immense hope, kindness, and love, especially towards yourself. Visit CharlaAnderson.com for replays, blogs, and more on her ever-expanding website, as well as watch her live TV show on WinWinWomen.tv, Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And so that we can continue learning together and growing this community of beautiful souls, we invite you to share the Charla Anderson Show with your circle of friends. Until we meet again next week, remember always, choose joy.